Imagine a desolate land, where the wind howls through the trees like the cries of forgotten souls. This is Helltown, a shadowy corner of the Cuyahoga Valley in Ohio, where from the very beginning blood has soaked every inch of earth. In 1758, Native American tribes first arrived here, unaware that this land would soon become a blood-soaked battlefield, a mass grave no one dared to speak of. Just a few decades later, in 1782, true darkness awakened. A horrific massacre erupted, cold steel flashing through the night, screams of despair intertwining with the mad laughter of the victors. Tribal conflicts, worsened by colonial interference, turned Helltown into a deadly arena, where hundreds of lives were ripped apart without mercy. But that was only the beginning. This cursed land sits atop an ancient native warpath, a trail of death where countless brutal skirmishes unfolded. Bones piled high, graves hastily dug in terror, and the air itself seemed to hang heavy with the stench of death. They say that on moonless nights, you can still hear the whispers from beneath the soil, curses of souls denied rest, trapped forever in the frozen ground. By 1806, new settlers arrived, desperate to rebuild and erase the horror of the past. They gave the place a name born of hope, Helltown, merging 3 small villages into one. But the darkness never left. It lurked in the dense forests, slipped between the cracks in the rocks, and crept into the minds of anyone who dared to stay. Stories began to spread, of faceless figures drifting through the fog, of mournful cries echoing from forgotten graves. That bloody, death-stained beginning planted the seeds for even darker legends to grow. Tales of occult rituals soaked in blood, grotesque human experiments, and entities that don't belong to this world. Helltown isn't just a place, it's a warning. A gateway to hell no one dares to cross. Imagine a gloomy afternoon in 1974, when the sky over the Cuyahoga Valley hung heavy, as if it were burdened by a terrible secret waiting to be unleashed. From the distant seat of power, President Ford issued a cold and calculated order: transform the land of Helltown into a national recreation area. The man chosen to carry out this mission was William Birdsell, a name that would later be cursed in the nightmares of those who once called this place home. He arrived like a specter, eyes sharp and unreadable, cloaked in an intent no one could decipher. From that very moment, Helltown's fate was sealed. A town meeting was called under a suffocating tension. The creak of wooden chairs echoed through a silence thick with dread, as the residents exchanged uneasy glances. Birdsell stood tall, his voice dry and brittle, like wind rustling through a graveyard, as he delivered the cruel truth. Your homes now belong to the government. You must sell whether you want to or not. No negotiations. No choices. The prices offered were pitiful, insultingly low, lifelong homes full of memories, valued no more than piles of ash. Rage simmered within the community. Some hung their heads in silent sorrow, quietly packing up their lives. But others, the unyielding souls, cried out in desperation. What? For what purpose? They demanded answers but received only chilling silence, or vague, hollow lies. As time passed, Birdsell's patience wore thin. Then, like a waking nightmare, the military arrived. The sound of boots marching through the valley rang out, cold and merciless. Soldiers stormed homes, dragging screaming residents from their doorsteps. Children's cries pierced the night, mingling with the splintering of wooden doors kicked in by force. Houses were sealed off, set ablaze, or bulldozed without remorse. Black smoke curled into the sky, as if Helltown's very soul was being choked out. Those who had been expelled stood at a distance, watching their pasts consumed by flame, their tear-filled eyes burning with helpless fury. But the darkness didn't end there. A group of defiant residents filed a lawsuit against the Department of the Interior, and in a surprising twist, the Secretary himself sided with them. The courts ruled the acquisitions illegal. A cease and desist order was issued. But it was too late. Helltown was already a ghost, shattered homes, silent streets, and memories buried beneath the ashes. The government extended an invitation to the former residents to repurchase their land. But what was there to return to? Only rubble remained, and a pain that time could never erase. And then, in a hauntingly poetic ending, William Birdsell, the architect of all this sorrow, met the fate he could not escape. Just weeks before he was set to leave Helltown for a new post, as he packed up his desk inside the command center in the hollowed-out town, his heart suddenly gave out. A fatal heart attack struck without warning, as if the land itself refused to let him walk away from its curse. He collapsed right there within the cold, empty walls of Helltown, becoming a permanent part of the darkness he had sown. They say his spirit still wanders the abandoned streets, bound by the very sins he inflicted. Helltown isn't just abandoned, it is cursed, sealed within a wrath too ancient to be spoken. And from its ashes, new horrors begin to rise, as if the land itself is trying to tell its story in the most terrifying way possible. As the last light of day vanished behind the ancient trees, Helltown awakened in darkness. This desolate town no longer belonged to the living. It had become a stage for ghosts, curses, and entities that had no place in our world. Since the forced expulsion of its residents in 1974, Helltown became a sealed land, where terrifying stories spread like a plague, infecting the minds of anyone brave, or foolish, enough to step foot inside. Tread lightly, for every stone, every snapped branch might whisper a tale that chills your blood to ice. During the military occupation, when the sound of iron boots still echoed through the valley, the shadows began to bleed. Soldiers whispered of encounters they couldn't explain. Illegal squatters, criminals hiding deep within the woods, and creatures that didn't look entirely human. Some claimed that soldiers and civilians alike vanished without a trace, as if the land itself had swallowed them whole. A road known as End of the World, a steep descent into a foreboding forest, was once a hideout for outlaws and killers in the pioneer days. Even after the town was abandoned, the eyes of unseen predators still shimmered in the dark, hungry and watching, as though that road had never stopped thirsting for blood. Scattered ruins only deepen the mystery of Helltown. An old slaughterhouse, where the clang of knives seems to echo on the wind. A forgotten morgue, its basement flickering with eerie red candlelight on nights no one dares to look for too long. For the moment you try to focus, the flame vanishes as if it knows you're watching. But the most terrifying structure of all is the cursed church, whispered among locals as the Satanic Church. Do not mistake it for the nearby parish of Mother of Sorrows, where inverted crosses, symbols of St. Peter, are often misinterpreted as satanic. No, this church lies deep within Helltown, its weathered brick walls seeming to hum with dark ritual. Those who dare venture inside at night report hearing low, guttural chanting, a summoning from the depths of hell. They speak of robed figures moving silently, each holding crimson candles, faces hidden beneath deep hoods. Some even swear they witnessed an unspeakable ritual unfolding beneath the flickering glow. But when they tried to flee, their legs were seized by an invisible force that refused to let them go. But Helltown's darkness isn't limited to human horrors. Before the military sealed it off, the valley was choked with the stench of sulfur, as if the earth itself was leaking poison. Rumors spread that a nearby landfill was secretly used by the government to dump illegal chemicals. Even darker whispers told of an underground facility, a lab buried beneath the soil where unspeakable experiments were conducted. Misshapen creatures, half human and half beast, were said to have escaped from there, now roaming the woods with glowing red eyes and unnatural growls. Some stories tell of massive snakes as thick as tree trunks, slithering through the underbrush with terrifying speed. If any of these tales are true, what lies beneath Helltown's soil? A gateway to hell, or a secret so damning the government would rather destroy everything than let it be known? The horror doesn't stop there. Gore Orphanage, also called the Light of Hope, was the site of an unspeakable tragedy in the early 20th century. A sudden fire claimed the lives of 172 children and at least 4 adults, leaving behind charred walls and screams trapped in time. Day or night, people still claim to hear children crying from the ruins, as if their souls are forced to relive that moment over and over in ghostly silence. An abandoned school bus hidden deep in the forest is the center of another legend. In the mid-1900s, a tragic accident killed 20 children and an adult chaperone. Now, if you dare to approach the bus at night, you might see a shadowy man standing in the dark, the red ember of a cigarette glowing in the gloom. But when a flashlight beam touches him, he vanishes like mist, leaving only a chill that slices down your spine. And finally, a legend so terrifying it stops even the boldest explorers in their tracks: the Phantom House. On thick, foggy nights, when the forest holds its breath in eerie silence, a ghostly house appears in the clearing. Dim light flickers behind shattered windows, beckoning the curious. But beware, if you cross its threshold you will never leave. When dawn breaks, the house vanishes, taking with it anyone foolish enough to enter. No one knows what horrors await inside, for no one has ever returned to tell. Helltown is not just an abandoned town, it is an abyss where humanity's deepest fears become reality. Each tale, whether truth or whispered rumor, stands as a chilling warning. Do not come here. Do not disturb what sleeps in the dark. Because in Helltown, the darkness does not just watch, it hunts.